So in yesterday's video, I focused mainly on Lucas Paqueta and Gianluca Scamacca, and I thought rightly so. They were game changers. They made a massive impact, as did Declan Rice. But we know what we're getting with Rice. There's no need to overly discuss him. I think still there's an element of the unknown with Paqueta and with Scamacca. So the video yesterday I was just pleased, really pleased with what I saw. But obviously there were a ton of other performances as well. Whilst I sort of mentioned Flynn Downes, I recorded the video very late on the evening of the game. I hadn't at that point heard what David Moyes had to say about him, and I also hadn't heard Flynn Downes' interview. I got to say I was really impressed to hear David Moyes speak so glowingly about Flynn Downes. I think this is really important because I think when players are regularly in the team, so let's say Kurt Zouma, let's say Declan Rice, Thomas Souček. There's a comfort blanket, if you like, about them being in the team. Whilst it's nice to have good words from the manager, to have praise from the manager, I think it's less important because you know you're going to be in the team anyway. With somebody like Flynn Downes, who by what we consider to be a lack of playing time, but he does himself. He alluded to this in his comments. When you get somebody like that, I think to hear that actually the manager does rate you is very important. Now, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. We don't know how much David Moyes praises these players in private. We don't know if there's been a conversation with Flynn Downes where David Moyes maybe says, look, that you're coming in, you've come in from Swansea, played with Ipswich before, we're going to ease you in, we're sort of probably more looking towards you being a fixture in the team in 6 months' time. We don't know if that conversation was even had, if that conversation was there. We can only assume that Flynn Downes is not playing as much as we would like, and by association not as much as Flynn Downes would like. So to hear David Moyes come out and say that he thought Flynn Downes had given him a real headache, in a good way, and he thought he was the best player in the match. So not only was he was my man in the match, I know a lot of you watching this, he was your man in the match. I think he was the sponsor's man of the match as well. And David Moyes concurred. Well, that's really important, and it's important for him to hear that. Now, do I think that David Moyes is going to drop Thomas Souček for the game against Fulham? Actually, I don't. But what Flynn Downes has done is he put himself in the conversation. I don't think he was part of that conversation before. And this is really important because I think sometimes you've got to understand what David Moyes sees in Thomas Souček and what Thomas Souček offers for the team, because David Moyes just relies on Souček. He can be trusted. He knows what he's going to get. So even if his passing is not particularly good, and it rarely is, he knows he's going to offer the commitment. He knows he's going to offer the running. He knows the tackling. The heading's going to be there, and he may pop up with a goal. But positionally, he's going to do whatever David Moyes instructs him to do. And I think by gaining the trust of someone like Flynn Downes, with a performance like he's just had those 2 performances in Europe, I think he's saying to David Moyes, you can trust me. And I think what David Moyes likes so much about Thomas Souček is the fact that there's a nitty-grittiness about him. He's going to win those tackles. He's going to win those challenges. I was so impressed with the technique of Flynn Downes' tackling. Actually, if the reason he's playing Souček, and which is crazy, this is crazy what I'm about to say now, bearing in mind this was somebody who scored double figures goals for us in Thomas Souček. But I think a lot of the reason he's also in the team is for his defensive work as well. And if that's one of the reasons, then Flynn Downes done himself no harm at all, because actually there's a ferocity in Flynn Downes' play. Not only that, the timing of his tackle is, excuse me, if you just wonder what I'm doing, my camera's just playing up a little bit, there you go. But the timing of his tackle is so good that actually not only does he tackle and win the ball, it doesn't then become sort of a ricochet ball that basically falls at anybody's feet. It doesn't, in essence, become a second ball. A lot of the time, Flynn Downes is winning the ball and he's retaining the possession. This is really important because it means when he wins the tackle, we keep the ball. It's not going off in no man's land. It's something Declan Rice does very well indeed, and that's so crucial to our counter-attacks. And if you look at the attack we had, I think it was the one where Flynn Downes ended up shooting with his left foot and missing. He actually started off that counter-attack not only by winning the ball. Well, that's the point. There's a difference between tackling and winning the ball. He does both. Really impressed with that. His range of passing is good. Also, he seems to, not only does he win the ball, he'll either win the ball and give the ball quickly, or if the pass isn't on, he'll drive forward a couple of yards as well. I'm really impressed by that. I'm massively impressed with the way he shields the ball as well. He's won a couple of fouls in that last game against Anderlecht. Look, don't get me wrong, he's going to get some cards. He got a card in that game, funny enough. He will get cards. I'm pretty sure he'll get sent off at some point as well. But you're going to have to take that, because you can't expect to have a committed player and that not happen. And I think, just as I say, in the manager's mind, I think Flynn Downes' stock has risen massively. And you can only ignore these type of performances for so long, and I just don't think he can yet. Before I go any further and talk about Flynn, this video is sponsored by the OneFootball app, which you can download by clicking the link below. The OneFootball app isn't a West Ham app. It's actually a generic football app, but you can make it give you only the West Ham news. That's why when you download it, it asks you who you support, asks you what your national team is, asks you if there's anything else you'd particularly like to follow, an individual player, a competition. So you can tailor it to your own specifications. In essence, the app becomes what you want. For me, it's just West Ham and it's England, and what it does, it goes through all the newspapers, goes through all the internet, and literally just cherry picks all the stories that are relevant to those two subjects, puts them into all in one place, and delivers them to my phone. And the best thing about the OneFootball app is it's free. Check it out, give it a try if you haven't done so already. If you don't like it, you can just uninstall it, de-download it, whatever the phrase may be. Please use the link below though, because I'll know you've come from this video, and we get a nice little pat on the head for doing it. The other thing I was really pleased about with Flynn Downes as well, I'm pleased for Flynn Downes and his family, really, because this is a family of West Ham fans. And there's going to be immense pride. I would assume that the family knew probably the day before, or at least on the day that Flynn was going to feature. Why is this important? Well, it's important that all the family want to get towards the game. They want to see their son and their brother, sister, whatever. They want to see him play, and you'd just be immensely proud. It's a really big deal. I've no doubt that Flynn is I keep calling him Flynn like he's my buddy. That Mr. Downesy baby. Probably made myself very unpopular there. I've no doubt, by the way, that he is a really good quality player. He's going to be a really good Premier League player. And I'm no doubt that had he signed for Crystal Palace, that Patrick Vieira would have been playing him already. He would have been featuring in the Premier League. Vieira's that sort of manager. And he was on the cusp of signing for them, wasn't he? I mean, he was just, if you listen to the interview, he was just about to sign for them. Then his agent told him there's interest for West Ham. Once he heard West Ham were interested, then there was no competition. It's his boyhood club. It's the club of his family, and so on and so forth. But I do think it's really important that when he comes to West Ham, that he is not filled with any regrets, that he's not sort of looking and thinking, oh, maybe if I just signed for Palace, I wouldn't quite be West Ham, wouldn't be my team, but I'd be playing regular first-team football. So I think it's important that we offer him that opportunity, and that David Moyes offers him that opportunity. And I was just so impressed with what I saw from him. His awareness of space, in particular was I say in particular, there's a lot to admire there. I do think when the commentator highlighted at one point somebody ran off of him. I saw it happen a couple of times. That's easily rectified. I think he's just got to be more aware of, a couple of 1-2s in there. But he's, when they're played around him, and just go and, track the person that's basically run off him. But I think that's going to be so easy to do. But that's one little minor thing. He's better than I thought he was. He's more athletic than I thought he was. More aggressive, stronger. I said more athletic, clearly faster. His touch on the ball. We knew he was a good passer. We understood this. We heard this stat, right? He was the best passer. If I got this right, the best passer in all the divisions last season, certainly the best in the Championship. And we went and bought him, so we know that. So it's going to be no surprise that he can control the ball and he can pass it. But he is more aggressive than I thought he was, and that's no bad thing. And this all leads on to what I'm saying about David Moyes having trust in the player. So David Moyes will know that he can pass and do that sort of stuff. But can David Moyes trust him to sit in front of a back four and do his job? I think the answer is yes. And that other stuff is going to come. I was really interested to hear, not just David Moyes' interview, but to hear Flynn Downes' interview as well. Clearly very happy, clearly pleased to be in the team, clearly aware that he's played well because the interviewer told him so. But he spoke about, getting into the box and it being on his left foot and him having a little swing at it and whatnot. and him getting a nosebleed, which was good. It was funny. He'll get better at that. There's no doubt about it. I made the reference just in case you didn't see it, that during that move where I think he won the ball, he gave it to Paqueta. Paqueta gave it to Scamacca. Scamacca flicked it off, really neat, lovely little flick. It went to Flynn Downes. Scamacca wanted the ball back, basically, and he didn't. Flynn didn't give it back to him. He struck with his left foot. It was a poor shot, and Scamacca told him off. And again, I think that's very, very good for him. He will learn. He will learn. And that's just one additional aspect he probably, will add to his game, is what's he going to do when he's driving forward. But there was also a lovely little attack on the right-hand side. Again, it was in the second half of the ball came to him, and he just passed it quickly. That's what he had to do. And I can't remember whether he passed it into Bowen. It was either Bowen or Soufal. It was someone in that sort of area, but it was a quick pass. It was decisive. It was his first touch was a pass, and that's always really good as well. I love seeing that sort of thing. In many respects, I was going to say the perfect player, not the perfect player, but the perfect player for us, the perfect player for West Ham, the perfect player for where West Ham are. And the last thing I want to say about him is it's really important for him to have confidence and feel integrated into the group. We all saw that video on his first day. You're going to be a little bit shy. You're going to get that anyway. And any person on their first day at work, if you're walking into a new office or you're working in a new shop or whatever it is you work, you're not going to go in on your first day and give it a Billy Big what's it. So, look, you're going to go in a little bit humble. You're going to find your feet. You're going to be in unfamiliar surroundings, all of that stuff. But it's really important we allow him to come out of his shell, because we've lost Mark Noble, because we've lost, as Declan Rice says, Fredericks, who's a character in the team. Crowell was a bit of a character, apparently, because of that, and because of his background, in as much as he comes from a family of West Ham fans. He's just going to get it. He might not understand the surroundings. He might be working with unfamiliar people, but the nature of the club is very familiar to him. What West Ham stands for is going to be very familiar to him. He's had it all through his upbringing. His parents would have drummed it into him. So this is important, that we make him feel confident enough in and around the group that he can have his say and he can develop as a character. And I don't know. I don't know if he's got any leadership qualities or not. Really don't know. But I just think, for him to flower is very, very important. Overall, really impressed. Well, of course I'm impressed. Look, a 12-odd minute video, and I've been talking about nothing but Flynn Downes. And you get a lot of goodwill. I think this is what maybe a lot of clubs miss this trick. You get a lot of goodwill when you're a West Ham fan. I wouldn't say West Ham are any different to anyone else. Liverpool or Everton, you're going to get a lot of goodwill if you're a Scouser in the team, a Geordie playing for Newcastle, and all that sort of stuff, right? There's a lot to be said for that, and we want it, and we see he's a good guy, and we want him to do well. Sometimes you see someone, they don't, you just want it to work out. It doesn't quite work out. They loved it. Freddie Sears, he loved the club, but it wasn't going to happen. It wasn't quite good enough for West Ham in the end. He had a lovely Premier League professional career, of course. But the thing is, Flynn Downes, he looks good enough. And he looks good enough to be in the team now. And that's really good. And I just hope David Moyes is true to his words, which is giving him a headache. I don't expect him to do anything just now. In many respects, it's so badly timed that we've just seen Thomas Souček's best performance of the season against Wolves. And he probably does deserve to play. But then again, Flynn Downes also does deserve to play. And there's your headache, right? There it is right there. Now you've got your competition for places. You've got a couple of midfielders. They're giving the manager, something to think about. You got it maybe at left back or left wing back or whatever. You got it certainly. You're getting it at right back now. A bit of competition for places. Centre back competition. The onus is on whoever, the incumbent, on whoever has that shirt at any one time, to give a really, really good performance. And that's really important. And I guess there'll be peaks and troughs. You got it at the moment with Scamacca and Antonio. Scamacca has made himself the main guy at the moment. Doesn't mean Antonio can't come back, have a couple of good games, score a few goals, and all of a sudden he's putting the pressure on Scamacca. But I love to see this, and I'm pleased now. I think maybe for the first time that Flynn Downes actually walks into training since he joined. And this is the thing. Not because he played well. He's played well in a game before, but because he's played back-to-back good games when he started. But because of what the managers said, Flynn Downes is going to go into work and he's going to think, I'm part of this. I'm part of West Ham. I'm one of the lads. And he's going to puff his chest out and he's going to strut his stuff. And that little bit of man management there, particularly done in the public domain, I think is going to result in us having an even more improved Flynn Downes.